Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another book versus episode video. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Cry of the Cat, book versus episode. Now, the book, I gave a 4.8 out of 5. I thought this was a very good book. Matched most of the hype. The only thing that I think that didn't really match the hype was this whole thing about Allison people kept bringing up. But other than that, everything was fantastic with the book. And the episode, I also gave a 4.8 out of 5 a long time ago on my channel, and I think this really appeals to me on so many levels. I love how risky it is. I think this is Ron Oliver's magnum opus on the TV show. This is one of my personal favorite episodes, and honestly, it's going to be really hard comparing these two because they are so different. This is one of those situations in the show where you get one version in the book, and then the episode you get something completely different almost entirely. And we're going to kind of compare them, see which things I like more here. So in the book versus episode videos, we traditionally run down a few things. The things being characters, stuff like that. We're going to be looking at atmosphere, which one had a better atmosphere, which one had, in this case, since we sometimes go over tone and aesthetics, there are some tonal differences, and there are some aesthetic differences. We're going to be going over tone and aesthetics in this video. We're going to be looking at overall plot as well. We're going to look at the climax, which one had a better climax, and of course the ending, right? And yeah, so let's go off here. Let's go off with the I guess we'll start off with the main character here, Allison. Now in the book, Allison is like this thespian girl. She has a little brother. She is rehearsing for this play. And that's about as much as you know about her character. I mean, she does care about her little brother. She's honest with her friend Ryan, but that's pretty much the extent of her character we understand in the book. She does have some really horrific things happen to her in the book that really make her situation very scary. It works well in terms of being a scary story, and I feel like for the most part she's there to service the scary plot. The episode, Allison has way more of a personality, and she actually has a character arc. Now, I do understand some people don't like how mean Allison is in the episode, and after rewatching it for posterity for this video, I do see the argument where people were saying that Allison is mean. However, she's kind of comes off mean in the episode because in the episode, she's filming a Goosebumps movie called Goosebumps 4: Cry of the Cat. She doesn't want to be filming this movie. She doesn't like the people that she's working with. She doesn't like the director. She doesn't like this guy named Ryan she's working with. She's mad at her agent for booking her on this, and they gave her a bad dressing room where she displays her mice, her collection of mice. And she's just kind of mean, but throughout the episode, she gets kind of humbled with her experience with Rip the Cat, and kind of has this character arc where she becomes more friends with Ryan after apologizing to him, and she gets kind of humbled, and then by the end, she's like changed, presumably. So you get a lot more of a sense of Allison's personality there, for better or for worse. Now, it's a very give or take with Allison's character in the episode. You can either love it, hate it, don't care for it, whatever. But for me, for Allison, I'll take the episode's version because she has a distinct character arc there. It's more than just things happening to her, and yeah. And I know some people might be like, well, she at least, is honest with her friend Ryan, and at least she's caring for her younger brother, but that's all we get. So, the episode offers more, so I'll take the episode. Ryan, Ryan is the best friend. He's a very understandable friend in the book, very supportive to Allison. He is, in the play with her, he seems very receptive, seems very heroic, willing to stand up and do what's right, likes to stand up for her, even when she embarrasses herself. In the episode, he's like this showboaty, show-off kind of actor guy that nobody likes, and he's kind of misunderstood, and Allison apologizes to him, and then in like part 2, he comes out and becomes more heroic and becomes more part of the story by the end. which is still nice. I guess he has a little mini character arc there. So I may argue that he is more emotionally developed than Allison, which is fine. But honestly, if I had a preference for Ryan, I'll pick Book's Ryan. Ryan is a very refreshing supporting character in this book. Very rarely do you have a supporting character that believes the protagonist when they're doing the "you gotta believe me" stuff, and he's the reason why the "you gotta believe me" in the book works so well. And Allison knew the right person to tell and who to trust. She did go to her parents like once, maybe twice, but she gave up on that, so that also helps too. But yeah, Ryan was a really good character in the book. Really took me by surprise, and definitely prefer him there. Next, we'll talk about Crystal. Crystal. Um, I'm just gonna be honest, about dead even. Some have made criticisms about the actress in the episode who plays Crystal, thinking that she's like a bad actress. I don't get that. I mean, if we're talking about bad actors, I think about like Andrew from The Headless Ghost. That's pretty bad. Crystal, she's all right. She's serviceable to the character, the actress who plays Crystal. Essentially the same thing. She's there to, I guess in the book, she's there to facilitate more of a stop pause type of thing where she's not giving too much information to Allison. As in the episode, when Allison's touring Crystal's home and sees all that, health research that her mom was doing, Crystal actually talks with Allison and helps Allison come to the conclusion, which kind of tying into some plot stuff I'm going to get into later, how Allison comes to realize that Rip likes to hide out in his grave between his deaths. And she's more of an instrumental character in the episode, but essentially she's the same thing. I really don't have a preference, so I'm going to tie Crystal there. Now, Crystal's mom serves the same effect overall in both products here. She's the reveal. She's like this humanoid monster creature. I don't want to go any further than that in both versions. But in the episode, she has more of the vagueness that the book offered is more clear here. They decided to go with the route that she was doing medical research, since cats have a similar, I think they said like something to do with their immunities or something. I think that's what it is. Are very close to humans, human immunity. So they were doing research, and she was doing research on cats because they're so close to humans, and then she accidentally created Rip by accident through that. As in the book, it's very vague. It just said that she was doing experiments on cats and killed a bunch of cats, and Rip was created from these experiments. So I think for her character, I like the episode's direction a little more. I like that it gives it more answers, a little more backability. And even though like the really, really, really good twist to her character where she decides to abandon Allison is crazy to me. So on a lot of regards are even, but I'm going to give the slight edge to the episode here. I guess we have some supporting cast, like the theater teacher and the director. If I had a preference, I'd give it to the director in the episode. He's funny. He offers a lot of comedy. He's the one directing the Goosebumps 4 Cry the Cat movie that they're filming. It's very meta. And yeah, he's great. Nothing to take away from the teacher in the book. He doesn't stand out like the director here. There are some characters like Allison's little brother who is absent from the episode. In the book, he is watching the movie called Cry of the Cat and is too scared for him, and Allison is nice to him, and he's like pretty sweet. He's sweet feeling. The episode doesn't have him, so Allison's little brother, of course, goes to the book, but he's a really good character for it being like not an important character at all. And then, what's another one we could talk about? The agent. She's kind of prevalent in the episode. You don't see her in the book. Really, she doesn't really matter that much, so it goes to the episode. But the agent, serves as part of the story. Talks to Allison, tries to be nice to her, and Allison, is kind of mean to her, but it is what it is. So, But then the main star here, Rip. In the book, it's like Rip and multiple ghost cats, the cat tornado, and in the episode, it's Rip, the demon ghost cat with wings. So, honestly, Rip, Rip in the book, he's creepy. He's great. The stuff he does to Allison is really good, really good. The episode, it tried. It couldn't do everything this book did. It's just budget. It just couldn't do everything Rip did there, and also the rating the show had. But what the show is able to do and how Rip looks, it's very serviceable, and I can commend a lot of things about the episode. But if I had a preference for Rip, I have a slight edge to the book here. Not taking anything away from Rip, I do like the aesthetics with him, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But yeah, that stuff was really great. Either way. But I do prefer the book for Rip. Now, when it comes to atmosphere, I think I'm going to deadlock these. They're so different. The atmosphere is so different. In the book, it's like this fall, cold atmosphere. You really get that. You really get that sense in the writing and in the prowess. It's so good. The episode is like this fun movie set. It's there's like an Exorcist homage. It's supposed to be this big movie set type of thing. Very Hollywood atmosphere, and I like them both equally, honestly. They're both really interesting in their own ways. I can't really decide, so I'm going to deadlock them here. Now for the aesthetics. The aesthetics, we're getting to like how Rip is described, Rip's abilities, stuff like that. Aesthetics. So the book, there's like this ghost, it leans more into the ghost side of Rip, where his like physical form, he can alter it and like play mind games with Allison, and he can harness a cat tornado of other dead cats to follow him. Wild stuff. Leans way more into the supernatural element. The episode kind of has a supernatural element. There's like one scene that kind of shows an explosion. You see like the spirit of Rip laughing in the sky. But there's like this demonic presence to him, and he has kind of this like decrepitness going for his character, like the way they chose to do the animatronic. He has like wings, and he's growing hairless for all these times he's died. I'm guessing that's supposed to allude to every time he dies, his physical form gets more and more creepy and decrepit and dead looking, which I can totally understand. And honestly, if I had a preference, I don't know. I think I might deadlock them here. I think they both do something different with the aesthetic. They try to do something different with each, and they both work for me. Some might have a more definitive answer for the book. I can totally understand why, but I'm just going to tie them here on that. Now the tone. The episode, the tone is meta in Hollywood. That's what this is, mixed with, you know, the typical, well, I don't want to say typical, but just trying to scare you goosebumps type of stuff. Where the book, the tone is pretty serious. There's really no comedy in this. Just serious all the way through. And honestly, I might shock people again, but if I had a preference on tone, which one captivated me more? I'm going to deadlock them here. I think they're, like I said, it goes back to the atmosphere, and they kind of stem together here with the tone and the atmosphere. They both offer something totally different and both equally interesting to me. I can't really decide which one is more interesting. I totally get what they're trying to do in the episode, and we'll get to the endings and all that near the end. But I get what they're doing here, and I know this episode does not land for everyone, and I know that this might be kind of controversial to say this, but I get it, and I'm not knocking people who don't get it, but I guess it takes somebody who is a fan of meta and that can look kind of deeper into things and understand what something's trying to say artistically to understand what this episode's saying. Not taking anything away from people who don't get it or anything. I'm just saying that I get it, I enjoy it, it speaks to me. Book does its serious tone very well, not taking anything away from that either. It works very effectively, tells a really scary, intense story. Can't knock either for me. The overall plot, now for the most part it's kind of the same thing. For the book, Allison is rehearsing for a play, riding her bike, she hits Rip the cat, she feels bad. She takes it up to Crystal's house. Crystal answers the door and says, I don't want that cat. That's Rip the cat. He's no ordinary cat. Rip comes back to life. And all these hijinks ensues throughout the story, progressively getting worse for Allison until she gets scratched. And then weird things starts happening to her, like she's turning into a cat and stuff. And at least it's alluding to that. And this big old climax ensues after she discovers this whole ordeal at the graveyard, and you see cat tornado, and then you get to meet Crystal's mom and that whole revelation and the whole thing about Allison there. And then, you know, Ryan comes to try to save the day, and then the story kind of resolves. The episode, they're on a film set, and it's very meta in tone. Allison doesn't want to be filming there. She wants to kind of get away from the film set because she just doesn't want to be there. Starts riding her bike outside of the studio area, and she accidentally hits a cat in a neighborhood nearby. She goes flying off her bike, goes to Crystal, and says, "Hey, I think I hit a cat, and because I found a tuft of hair." Crystal's like, "Oh, that's Rip. That's no ordinary cat." And then all this stuff starts happening to her, just like the book, except here she gets scratched in like I think she gets scratched in the parking lot or in like a hospital bed or something, and it goes more into the hospital notes. Kind of has those same it does little things differently than the book. Like there's more, you got the hospital and then you got the parking lot, stuff like that. But for the most part, kind of plays the same. She has that falling thing, kind of like similar to the ladder in the play that the book had, except she was on a movie set this time. I think that's what sent her to the hospital. So yeah, I think that might probably happened in the parking lot. And you know, it's very different in the plot because it ends up being like she uses Crystal to kind of piece together where Rip is. She goes to this movie set spot and sees that Ryan is filming a scene, and this big old earthquake thing happens and an explosion, and they go back to Crystal's house, and this time her and Ryan are there, and see the reveal of Crystal's mom at the same time, and they're both left there for Rip, except Rip is more solo. There's no cat tornado. And essentially the same twist happens, except there's a meta ending to it. We haven't got to the ending part yet, but it definitely tries to ram that meta-ness near the end. So yeah, overall plot is a bit different. A little bit of changes here and there to fit the episode and whatnot. But if I had a preference for plot, overall plot, might shock a few. I'll take the episode. Shocking, right? No, the plot of the episode feels a lot less vague for me. It feels a lot more, and it also has this level of meta-ness to kind of drive it and make it more entertaining. As a fan of Goosebumps, this was trying to insert a lot of fan service-y humor that really landed for me. And the plot, it feels more coherent. It feels more, I don't know. It's kind of like comparing, the closest thing I think of could be like Phantom of the Auditorium versus Phantom of the Megaplex. I think the setting is used way better here with the setting in the plot, and I think that the setting really elevates the plot for me. Not taking anything away from the book's plot. The book's plot is just building that tension, building up to that moment. But the plot here, you get more of a character arc with Allison all together. Like all said and done, the overall plot, I just like the episode more, with all those things taken into consideration. The climax specifically, in the book, it's essentially the same thing as the episode, where Allison, and I guess in the episode, Allison and Ryan head back to Crystal's for the final time, and this is where they meet Crystal's mom. That's the climax of the story. They both hit the same. The episode does a fantastic job at selling that practical effects. Honestly, this is why this is one of my favorite episodes. A lot of that has to do with the practical effects in this episode. Just nail this. The book does a good job at selling this atmosphere, and that whole twist with Crystal's mom is fantastic. The climax is pretty much deadlocked for me here. Both are great. Now the overall ending, the last thing we're going to discuss, the ending's a little bit different for me. So the ending in the book, there's like some sequel bait and some ambiguity there, dealing with the events post what may or may not happen to Rip. As in the episode, the ending, there's two interpretations, I think. There's two interpretations you can have from the ending of this episode by the way it lays it out. So the one interpretation, and the closest thing I can compare this to is like the Werewolf of Fever Swamp episode, where there's like two totally different interpretations you can have. So the first interpretation you can have for this is like Crystal and Crystal's mom are watching this movie called Goosebumps 4 Cry of the Cat, and they watch it end, and Ryan and Allison are showing them, and they're like, oh, what a great way to, break into TV, stuff like that. And then the ending alludes to that the entire episode was the movie. And then the second interpretation, now this is what I think, is that what it's trying to say is that they were showing Crystal and Crystal's mom the movie they filmed because that's why they were there nearby their neighborhood to begin with. It's never really elaborated, but this is what to be implied by context here. They showed the ending to the movie, showed them the whole movie. Crystal and Crystal's mom are, presumably back to normal again. They love the movie because they now have a relationship with Ryan and Allison. And then Allison see something that happens in the twist that maybe something from the actual events that took place made its way and continues on. Now, do they do the greatest job with that second interpretation at selling that what they were watching was the actual movie, and the meta-ness is that they were watching the whole movie, in despite that all the events in the episode took place in the real life. It's kind of hard to make sense of that, but they didn't do a good job at selling that, I don't think. But in terms of endings, I'll probably lean to the book here. I think the book's just a little more better on the ending. I get the ending. I don't have any negatives towards it. I get it just fine. Either way. Some people don't, but that's okay. But I prefer the book because it is a little bit neater. So all in all, if I had a preference, which one do I prefer, the Cry of the Cat book or episode? I'm going to give it a dead tie here. Really. This one's just too close. There's so many gives and takes. Like the episode, my biggest negative actually is how cringy the supernatural ghost element they inserted here in the second act with the explosion and ghost effect. They shouldn't have just kept the supernatural part out of it and just kept Rip like an experiment gone wrong in his body. He's just become morphed or something instead of going that supernatural route. And I think that really muddies up the second part of the episode. As in the book, my biggest negative is actually Allison for not having any internal monologue and everything about her character being external and about her experience and not really understanding her personality. So they're both kind of equating on the same things, and they both have so many personal things that I like more one way or the other, so they kind of just balance out. And that's where I'm at. Cry of the Cat. This is a book franchise. If you're going to watch or read Cry of the Cat, I definitely recommend you read the book and then watch the episode. I don't know about the episode. Most people tend to really like the book or really love the book. I think this book is definitely one of the best Goosebumps books I've ever read. It's not a personal favorite of mine, but I do quite enjoy it. The episode, I get it on a personal level. It is one of my personal favorite episodes. I quite love this personally. I have more love for it than the book, but I do know that this does not land for everyone. But who knows? It might land for you, it might not. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Cry of the Cat book versus episode. Let me know down in the comment section. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the Cry of the Cat book or the episode? I'm dying to know. And I'll see you next time.